I usually fry the rolls in our fryer, but today we're just gonna... That is a perfect example of what not to do. Hi guys, I'm Chef Helen Nguyen. Welcome to Manhattan's Lower East Side. We're here at my restaurant, Saigon Social, and I can't wait to take you on a tour. We're in the dining room of Saigon Social. As you can see, the kitchen is very open. We have an open bar. The space is very long and narrow. So the idea is that rather than being hidden behind a wall or downstairs in the basement, that back of house has full view of the dining room as well as being able to interact and see the guests that come in and enjoy the food. This is my first restaurant, so we worked with a very small budget. At the beginning of the design, I hired an architect and he helped put together several sketches of the restaurant, and then at the very last hour, I decided to just kind of nix the whole thing. Because we were a pandemic baby, I had nothing but time to just rework things and tailor it and make all these changes to really create something that was very personal to myself. It was very challenging at the beginning, but I'm very proud of the person I am today. My initial plan of enrolling to ICE was, one, go to culinary school. I wanted formal training. I wanted structure. I wanted to be able to gain experiences learning the fundamentals of the kitchen, but also gaining some kind of professional cooking experience. And I was able to achieve all of that and so much more very early on in the program. I remember touring 4 or 5 different schools, and with ICE being in the new facility, I think one of the things that really called out to me was a hydroponic garden. And then not only that, but being able to look out to like the water and being in that beautiful space and just talking to faculty members as well as being able to sit into some of the classes really excited me. But the more I got involved learning about the community, I fell in love with the city, the industry, the people, and was really inspired to stay. And from there, that sparked my career change much later in life. I was reaching the end of my program. At the time, there was a lot of Vietnamese restaurants that were opening in New York City, and they became wildly successful. And I was incredibly motivated and inspired to do something, of my own. I started hosting pop-ups at little coffee shops, sandwich shops, different bars, and pretty much anywhere that I would be able to rent the kitchen from in the space that would allow me to do R&D. And the whole purpose of it was to have a better understanding of how people here in New York perceive Vietnamese food. After 2 years of doing pop-ups as well as working at 2 different restaurants, I decided, you know what, I really want to open a restaurant for myself and for the community to be able to share Vietnamese food the way that I see it. Our initial grand opening date was supposed to be March 13th, 2020, so it was literally the day before the city shut down. We started working with nonprofits and essentially turned the space into a commissary/community kitchen, and were able to bring back the workforce and started off at 50 to 60 meals a day to onwards of like 800 to 1,000 meals a day, just feeding frontline healthcare workers as well as people in need in the community. And that was pretty much our first iteration of the restaurant. We finally had an official grand opening March of 2022, and about a month into our opening, we had a great New York Times article talking about our journey, how one restaurant survived the pandemic. And because we didn't have a budget for marketing, that really helped us out tremendously. And our reservations were completely booked out, and we were so happy and so grateful. And within 2 days of receiving that review from Pete Wells, I also learned that I was nominated for James Beard, and honestly, it came as a really big surprise for me just because I felt I was so early on in the journey. You don't really realize how much of an impact and community that you're building when you're in the process, but all of this wouldn't have happened had I not moved to New York and decided to enroll in the program at ICE. I go back to visit school often. Sometimes I go back just to say hi to the chef instructors, and sometimes I go back for events. The relationships I built at ICE had been extremely valuable, extremely supportive beyond just my time there. The relationships that you build with community essentially shapes, who you are as a person, who you are as a business, and really has a huge role in your success factor. Let's head downstairs. I have something really fun to show you. Right now we're downstairs and in our basement corridor. This is the hallway that leads to the bathroom. As you can see, there's a theme going on downstairs here and actually throughout the restaurant. When I was younger, I had this really big fascination with Star Wars. And as we were designing the restaurant, it was very important to me to be able to translate a little bit of my personality to the space. All of the characters have the straw hats. So I like to think that they're in a rice paddy field back in Vietnam. We also have another mural in the main dining room, and there's two different landscapes that represent northern Vietnam and southern Vietnam. If you look closely, you'll be able to identify a lot of characters in the Star Wars galaxy. When the artist was working on the murals down here, he actually surprised me. When I went around the corner, it was a life-size mural of Boba Fett, or Helen Fett. I like to think that, that I'm a Mandalorian, and you got to put that helmet and like the gear on to, go to war and really fight for what you believe in. And I fought for this restaurant. I think that when people leave Saigon Social, they definitely see, okay, well, one, she really loves Star Wars. Two, it's a Vietnamese restaurant located in New York City that, it's a good marriage between like modern and traditional. We are currently in our prep kitchen downstairs in the basement, and this is where all of the prep work happens early in the day. So all of our marinades, all of our sauces, all of the breakdown, fabrication of our proteins happens here. One of the biggest things that I took away from ICE is just the importance of labeling things and keeping things organized. It really helped me envision how I wanted to set up the space in my own kitchen to make sure that the flow makes sense. We are currently in the walk-in fridge downstairs. So the way that we organize this space, there's actually a couple different breakdowns. We have it by station, as you can see. We have bar, saute, wok, grill. All of our produce goes here. All of the proteins go right behind me. All of the stocks and marinades are on the bottom. So everything gets produced in a large pot and then transferred into a Cambro, and then again transferred into quart containers. So it'll be easier for us to kind of grab for service. At ICE, FIFA was a very big thing, right? First in, first out, making sure that you're labeling things, utilizing things, that are old first, making sure that everything has its own place in terms of separating produce with your proteins as well as everything else, just to make sure that things are a lot more efficient. We have a lot of sauces here. We have a ginger scallion, oil that we use. This is a spicy sauté. Chili oil that we use for our spicy dumplings, as well as a lot of broth enhancements. There's always chopped ginger, chopped lemongrass in-house, just because they're very vital to our marinades as well as our sauces. Some of my favorites are our pickles. I like to cook very salty and very savory and very rich, and pickles really help balance out a lot of our dishes. And two of the main pickles that we have in-house are pickled mustard greens as well as pickled carrots and daikon. So this is a staple, almost like a non-negotiable for our kitchen. We're back in our open kitchen, and I can't wait to cook for you one of my favorite dishes. It's also one of our top sellers, bún chả Hanoi. I love it so much because there's so many different components to it. I always try to spend at least a week in Hanoi. I really love the city. I personally went on a journey of trying to capture the flavor profiles. A lot of the stalls in Vietnam specialize in one item and one item only, and it's usually a recipe that is passed on from many generations, so they're very hesitant and very protective of their ingredients as well as their technique. So I have tried to build rapport and relationships with a lot of the stall owners, and would ask them how, could you teach me? I came back and went through, I don't know, like a couple dozen different recipes and trial and errors throughout, I would say, a course of 2 to 3 years before I settled with a recipe that I felt was my favorite, that was a really good representation of the flavor profiles that I had in Hanoi, but also making it my own. So we are going to start with grilling meats. What we have here is marinated pork belly. It looks like a big gunk of fat because it's coagulated in the marinade and also in its fat. Right here we have the pork patty, which is ground pork marinated with lemongrass, shallots, ginger, fish sauce, chicken broth wrapped in a betel leaf. So we're just going to throw all of this on the grill. Right, as you can see, this is a little bit of a hot spot, but it's flaring up because of all that fat. And then we're going to do the same for the patties. So you can see as the fat is starting to melt, you could see the color start to turn. What we're going for is a nice golden brown. You want the char, right? A really nice smoky char that really transformed the broth. Before culinary school, I thought, grilling is just grilling. You just throw a bunch of meat onto the grill and then you wait for it to cook. I learned that at ICE, you could have the exact same pot, the exact same equipment, but in every kitchen, you're gonna have to learn how to navigate it, just because there's going to be different hot spots on the grill, the stove, the different kitchen appliances that you're using. The cross sections are something that was ingrained during my time at ICE. You see how it's starting to get a little burnt here? Do not freak out, everything will be fine. Some people like things a little bit on the fattier side, some people like a crispy fat. I like it somewhere in between. Now that the pork belly and the patty are both cooked, I am going to transfer them. Next, we're going to drop our vermicelli into the pot. We have this soaked overnight, so the cooking process isn't going to be too long, say about 30 seconds. They're done. I'm going to dunk them into this bain-marie with ice water, just to stop the cooking process so it doesn't get too soft and mushy. But then the ice water will shock it, so it'll have like a really nice bounce. So then I'm just gonna hook it here, let it just hang out. So here we call these our imperial rolls. They're rice paper stuffed with ground pork, Whittier mushrooms, bean thread noodles, scallion, and a bunch of seasoning. We're gonna drop it in here. So these usually fry for about 3 to 5 minutes. It's normal to have these air bubbles. It just means someone didn't roll them tightly. But also really sometimes it just means that moisture got into it. So as this continues to cook, we're gonna heat up our broth. So what's in a buncha broth? There's 3 components: fish sauce, vinegar, water, in terms of liquid, right? And then we season it with sugar and other secret things. The rolls are nice and crispy. We're gonna let it sit here so that it can drain all the excess oil. The broth is also cooked, so we're gonna taste it. It's perfect. Okay, so we're gonna turn that off. And now this is the fun part. We get to build everything and put the plate together. So first is the banana leaf. We grilled it to give it that really nice sheen. It's for fun. I mean, we do utilize banana leaf in a lot of our wraps, but for this dish, it's just aesthetics. So after that, we are going to build our greens. Right here I have red leaf lettuce. I really like red leaf lettuce because they're quite hearty. They look cute, but they also have a really nice crunch. And then mint. Going to place it right there. I'm going to now place the bowl onto the plate. We are going to then grab our vermicelli. We're going to stick it right here. Traditionally, this plate comes with pickled papaya as well as pickled carrots. We don't always get fresh green papaya, so I use daikon. Ta-da! And then next we are going to ladle the broth into the bowl. You'll start to see little, particles kind of float up from all of the char of the meat. it really enhances, adds another flavor, like a smoky flavor to the broth. It's a really nice, rich, golden brown, and that's what we want. Don't forget our rolls. I like to put 2 rolls here. This dish is intentionally very interactive, meaning that you're using your hands. You're really digging into it, right? Back in the stalls in Vietnam, you'll see that the herb plates and the vermicelli come in really big baskets. For the restaurant, I've kind of created a more condensed version of it, where it's intentional for 1 or 2 people to share. Last but not least, there's minced garlic as well as chopped Thai chilies. I like a really generous amount of garlic because it really enhances the flavor, and I really like spice. I'm gonna take this and make sure that everything is mixed very well. And there we have it. This is our bún chả Hanoi. I feel like this dish is very indicative of my flavor profile and palates, as well as a very great, introductory dish to Vietnamese cuisine, just because it really encompasses all the things that make Vietnamese food so special. She's a beauty. Thank you so much, Ice, for coming to my restaurant, Saigon Social. I had a really great time and so much fun showing you around. Hope to see you soon for some bún chả Hanoi. Bye! Bye! Bye!